So we've just hooked up now. It's got huge capacity. So here comes Luke now, that load of brash. So we've got a 6.65 metre crane on this farms trailer. Right, so we've got the second hole dug now. Just check our depth here. You used a hammer before? No. Oh, you're quite good. Oh. So we're back down on site. Luke's just turned up now with the tractor. He's come on the 185 with the crane trailer. So all this brash, we're going to get loaded up onto the trailer. But rather than the little grab, we can use the little grab and crane on the trailer for unloading. We can use it for loading and unloading. But just in the interest of, it's nasty stuff for loading with the pipes of the crane. We've got some spare pipes with us. We're just trying to minimise damage or risk of damage on the pipes. We'll use a 13-tonner to load all the brash up, and then Luke can unload himself gently at the other end. So we've just hooked up now this big grab. I don't know, you might have seen this before in the timber yard. It's one that came off an old Forder we used to run. Great big rotator on there. We have it on a swinging link. I kind of prefer the swinging links. It's just a little less brutal if you're sort of managing big timbers rather than putting loads of pressure and stress on the machine on the end of the boom. It's all a bit more forgiving. So we'll get that loaded up now. So nice thing with this grab, it's got huge capacity, so you can really get a lot of material in there bunched up. It's ideal for this brash. And obviously it rotates on that electronic diverter we've got on top of the boom. You can pick these bundles up really easily with this big grab. And what I'll do, I can spin it round and put it all the same direction for Luke. Now he's moved the crane out of the way off the trailer. Look at all the berries in that. There's so much winter bird food there. It's incredible. I think this is going to be a tremendous success. Definitely going to provide great habitat. I don't know about it's a beast. It's a bush. It's really quick with that big grab, isn't it? So we'll take this over now. We'll show you what we're going to be doing with it. Mobile habitat. So here comes Luke now, that load of brash. I don't think we want to take it down the road, but it's all right across these fields. So this grass field's going to get a load of treatment next autumn. We're going to be really increasing the biodiversity of the grassland, sort of wildflower meadows around here. And you'll see this area that we've just lightly power harrowed over. This is going to be a scrub island in the middle of the field. This grassland will be interspersed with these little scrub patches. So Luke's going to unload that pile now in the centre of the area. And like we were talking about earlier in the video, that'll become this sort of haven for small mammals and birds. They can benefit of all the winter bird food on there, all these berries and rose hips. And in that natural process, through their actions, feeding, defecating in the area, we'll be supplementary planting around the area then with hazels, hawthorn, blackthorn and other species which will just then start to colonise the area. But this will give it a great kickstart. So we've got a 6.65 metre crane on this farms trailer, single extension on the end of it. Really versatile trailer for forwarding out timber off-site, transporting it back to the yard and also moving timber and firewood around the firewood yard. Using the forwarding trailers just makes it really simple. It'd be kind of difficult to manually load that or in such big pieces. I think the bigger the stuff is, the bigger material we can use, the better. It's less likely to blow away across the site over the winter. It's got a bit of weight to that material, so unloading it like this and transporting it like that, I think it's probably the simplest, best solution. We haven't got to get too fancy about how we stack it. It's just creating a relatively dense mass of that brash. The bigger pieces of wood in there will start to rot down, and then that in turn will become food for invertebrates eventually. But there's plenty of bulk and weight and thickness to the material, so it should last a good few years. And it'll give structure for dog rows and brambles to start climbing and growing over, so it'll really kick-start the site. It's quite tight getting through this gateway. You notice we've got the steering drawbar on this trailer, so as Luke comes through, you can just move the drawbar across. So where you wouldn't get a trailer of this length through that gateway ordinarily, just by being able to steer with the drawbar of the trailer, you can wiggle yourself through. I wouldn't have a forestry trailer without a steering drawbar. You know, when you go in the woods, getting around trees and stumps, it's just brilliant. But little tight spots like this, really, really handy. You can snake your way through pretty much anywhere that you can get the tractor. Well, Luke can anyway, because he's pretty good at driving it.
Make sure you put the pin in on the road as well.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. There is a safety pin in the bottom of there. So when you go down the road, obviously there's 2 hydraulic cylinders. If you go fast and with weight on there, there's a possibility it could creep around. Or if you flipped a spool valve by mistake in the tractor, then the trailer can veer off from behind you. So when you're on the road, you drop the pin round, twist that in and drop it into place. That locks the trailer solid, so it's safe. So Luke's taking the last load of brash out there. Loads of berries all over it. Putting these little brash piles out. I'll show you those in a minute or two. What I've got to do now, while I've got the digger on site with that big grab, we've got a fence to rip out one of these hedgerows. And ripping fences out of hawthorn hedges is quite a miserable job normally. But I reckon that big grab should make really short work of it. Yeah, so this fence is going to come out of here. It's all started to get grown in. And the idea being is that some of this material might be getting laid, some of it's going to get pletched out into the field as the scrub creation. Either which way, they want the fence out. So we'll see if we can make it work with this. It won't be massively pretty, but it should be fairly fast. I said it wasn't going to be pretty, and I think I was pretty spot on with that. Bit of a miserable pile, but we got it out of that hedge nice and quick, so that's good. It's going to chuck it down with rain. The posts are all jiggered. The wire was all a bit torn in places, so it's scrap. So this is one of the scrub islands that we're starting to create. Oh, that's pretty cool. This should work really, really well. See the amount of cover we've got there now, the amount of berries that are in with lots of the brash material. So they'll just act as nice little islands for the scrub to start regenerating from. I think the key with these features is fewer piles of greater amount of material probably is better than small piles that will soon break down. Nice big piles like that, they'll hang around in the landscape for quite a while. If you do little small piles, then it'll break down and start rotting down too fast. Whereas this will give all that regeneration chance to get going and start thriving before that base material starts to rot away. You see down this hedgerow as well, we've sheared out some material there and created these like little linear fingers of brash just to start the process along this hedge to thicken all this out into more scrub. And these will get fenced off initially so that the grazing animals can't bash these about, and so that all the new plantings are protected. And over time those fences will get taken down and the beef cattle will be able to graze into the scrub areas. It'll provide a bit of shelter from wind and rain. It's a different approach to farming, but it's going to be one that works hand in hand with nature. Got some ponds to go in as well. Got a series of ponds down this boundary and a few more dotted around the site, which will, again, great diversity of habitat then that's going to start creating. So here's another way of expanding this scrub out of these existing hedgerows. You see these hedges are probably about, guessing, 10, 12 years old. So you can see where we've got marked out these little flags you'll see in the field. That's where the new fencing's going. Create these exclusion zones to the verges of these hedges. We're going to try and get the scrub to migrate from the existing hedgerow. Like I said before, supplementary plant it. Similar idea to what we did with the brash piling. That's going to allow natural regen through the birds and mammals like we talked about. Doing something similar along this hedge. We're just laying them out at 90 degrees to the hedgerow. So rather than laying the hedge, this hedge will just be allowed to go wild, generate into those sort of big mature specimens, some of which will blow over in the wind and crack over and be part of that natural process. But to accelerate some of that, we're just laying them out at 90 degrees, just odd plants, every 10 or 20 yards or so. Same idea with the berries. Birds will come and feed on these, start plopping out seeds into these areas, starting that natural regen process. And obviously these plants will then now sort of start to react next growing season and start to bush up and create these like fingers coming out of the hedge. So it'll just help that migration of scrub, if you like, that bit faster. So I'll show you how we're doing it. So just like hedge laying, we're going to the back of the stem, creating an angled cut with the axe, and then breaking the piece of hazel hawthorn, blackthorn, hawthorn in this case. Pulling that over, it's cracking on the bottom of the stool, still leaving about 10 to 20% attachment of living tissue coming out of the root up into the pletcher. And then cutting back at the bottom of the stool, angle cut to keep water away from the stool so it doesn't rot the bottom of it. There's a bit of cut off here, you can see. We'll get regeneration from the bottom of the stool, but then obviously all this laid material will shoot vertically and react next growing season, create like a big bush poking outside of the hedge. And what Paul's doing is just going along, knocking in a peg, putting a tie on it, just to hold that firm so that the wind stops it from blowing around and cracking off at the bottom of the stool. So creating these pletchers perpendicular to the hedge, just like laying a hedge, but just outwards. It's a bit scratchy getting underneath there, because normally when you're laying a hedge, you've got the material moving away from you all the time. So crawling in there, cutting the pletchers isn't fun. So I'm going in cutting the pletchers, Paul's going in, just weighting down, getting a peg in there.
It's like I've gone mad, and the hedge laying the opposite way.
You used a hammer before? Oh, you're quite good. Oh. You're quite good with rubber hammers, aren't you?
This as soon as you film. The others have all gone perfect. I've not snapped one at all.
Coming out this dry summer, the ground's pretty hard. It's taking a bit of knocking in these little pegs. You could use sisal or something like that to tie them down with. We're just putting a cable tie on them. I know it's single-use plastic, but I think this is single-use plastic for the greater good of conservation. It ties them quickly and gets them firm. Without those ties on there, as the wind blowing up and down the side of this hedgerow, they'll just shake and start to crack off at the stools. It's a bit of a trial. It's not been done before. We've not seen it done before on the project site. We just thought this might as well make use of this fairly tall material just to sort of kickstart the project. Okay, so we're back out on site again today with the excavator. So we've still got the Hitachi on site. A few little red markers here you might be able to see. So this is denoting where the centre of one of the ponds is going to be. A lot of design can get put into these sort of projects that we work on. A lot of really good drawings showing not only the shape and contour of the ponds and then planting schemes around it, but also a lot of LiDAR data, a lot of surveying in the field, looking at how the land lies and where the best chance of success is going to be on ponds. Some projects we work on have more or less design in them, and a lot of our projects that we work on directly for private clients, we'll take a lot of that on board ourselves. But what I do see, what we come across an awful lot, which is a bit of a bugbear, as a contractor that's producing these things and ultimately kind of responsible for trying to get it to work, is we never see a lot of test holes. So what we're doing for the client today, so we've got all the locations marked out on site where these ponds are going to be installed at some point next year. And what I've suggested, they've asked us to give us a bit of a practical experience, practical eye on it, because we do this stuff day in, day out, creating this type of environments. And we've looked at the site for them, and my first thing is, let's get some test holes in the ground. So first job, we'll dig the first holes, and I'll just show you. What I'm doing, it hasn't got to be an exact science, but the design is 750. So what I'm going to do, rather than having to jump out on the excavator all the time, if I just measure the bucket, with the bucket being flat on the ground, we've got 750 at this point here. So I know that when that bucket is just short of the top from the surface, we're at 750, we're at the desired depth. And then for the second hole, bucket flat in the bottom of the hole. If I'm up to this pin mark here, I'm at 1.2 metres. So I haven't got to keep jumping on and off the machine all the time. We can dig to that, scallop back, and then the same for the second hole. And we're going to do that across the whole of the site. That'll be monitored then going forward into next spring and summer, and we should get some confidence of whether this wetland creation, these ponds in these various parts of the site are likely to be successful or not. Which gives a lot more confidence to excavate these and create the features that have been designed. So a little bit of time spent now just gives us that confidence going forward. Okay, so that's given us a nice little depression. It's not a finished, polished thing by any stretch of the imagination. What it's doing is replicating what these ponds will be, or potentially designed to be. So we're 750 mil to the deepest point. We've shelved the sides up nice and gradual. That gives us a wider catchment for rain versus just a narrow hole. So we'll have a really good idea of how much water can fill in here and will hold in here now as we move forward into the spring and summer. So quite happy enough to leave it at that. Yeah, so it's a rough finish, but it's all in clay, so the soil conditions are really good from a pond point of view. So we'll just see how this goes. I'm going to dig the next one now down to 1.2 metres, and hopefully it'll give a bit of an indication of what depth these ponds are going to have to go to. Indeed, whether even these two depths will be deep enough. Right, so we've got the second hole dug now. Just check our depth here. So at 1.2 metres. It's a really handy mark in the bucket, or having an idea on the bucket of how deep we're going. This is kind of interesting here. This hole's a little bit different. Always be really careful when you're in these trenches for it collapsing. We're only at 1.2 metres here, and we're in some stiff clay, but I'm not going to spend a long time in here. We can see now down at 750, we're at this level, and you can see all that, a little bit of topsoil, and then it's all real clay material. As we move down the profile, we're still in clay, we're starting to pick up some seams of sand and gravels. So you'll see here, between the clay, here and here, we've got this band of silts and sands. There's clay content to it as well. And these gravels, there's been like an alluvial deposit here, sands and gravels at some point in history. Now what's interesting about that, we are coming out of a really, really dry summer, so I'm not seeing water making out the ground straight away by any stretch. But it's a seam like this of where there's some sands and gravels, where it's likely, as we move through winter, the groundwater increases. These are the sort of places you'll start seeing water seeping into these kind of features. So I would be surprised if we don't get water forming from the ground during the course of the winter up to around that level. Now that's only giving us 300 mil below that level. We'll have some precipitation as well, which is going to have an effect. But I've got more confidence we're going to get some water holding in here for longer. But you can see at 1.2, we're still not a very deep hole in the grand scheme of things. Lower down the bottom, there's another layer of sand. We've also got this layer of sand and gravels. At the bottom of the trench, we've also got sand. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with these and how much water forms and holds in them going through into next summer. I'll break these sides down now and just scallop them out a little bit more. I don't want the sides falling in. But hopefully this will be a good experiment of seeing at what point we need to be from a depth perspective to get these ponds to be successful. Yes, I think we'll end the video there. We'll be coming back into this site with various different tasks that we're going to be doing over the next few months. So we'll show you how the site develops. Thanks for watching, take care and have a great week.